It happened in an instant. One moment, Robert was standing in his daughter's backyard smiling at his 7-year-old granddaughter as she blew out birthday candles. The next, his knees buckled. The plate of cake slipped from his hands. Gasps filled the warm summer evening. He tried to laugh it off. Just a dizzy spell. But his family knew something was wrong. Minutes later, in the harsh fluorescent light of the emergency room, the truth arrived like a thunderclap. Dangerously high cholesterol, sky-high blood pressure, and a heart that had been quietly crying out for help for years. Robert is not alone. Stories like his play out every day across America. Millions of people over 60, men and women who worked hard, raised families, sacrificed, and planned for their golden years, discover in one terrifying moment that their health has been slipping away unnoticed. High cholesterol is the silent thief. It doesn't knock loudly on the door. It creeps in quietly, hiding behind ordinary routines. No pain, no obvious symptoms, until suddenly there's dizziness, chest pressure, or the sharp words from a doctor who says, "You're a candidate for medication for the rest of your life." If you're listening now, perhaps you felt a flicker of that fear yourself. Maybe it was when you forgot where you put the car keys, not once, but 3 times in a single morning, and wondered if it was just age or something more. Maybe you felt your heart race as you climbed the stairs, then brushed it off as nothing. Or maybe you sat in a sterile doctor's office staring at lab results with numbers you didn't want to read out loud. Those numbers seem to define you, as if your future were now chained to pill bottles and medical charts. But here's the truth no one says loudly enough. You are not powerless. High cholesterol is not an unavoidable sentence carved in stone the moment you turn 60. It's not destiny. It's not even truly about age. It's about choices, habits, and small shifts that accumulate over time. And that is where the story changes, because just as the body can drift into decline, it can also rise back into strength. Imagine Robert again, not in the hospital, but 6 months later. Imagine him walking slowly, steadily down his street with a neighbor, his skin a little brighter, his laughter returning, his granddaughter running ahead of him on the sidewalk. Imagine the numbers on his chart turning in the right direction, not because of fear, but because he made different choices, tiny ones that added up. That picture is real. That possibility is yours. Still, I know what you might be thinking. I've tried before. I've read the pamphlets, watched the news clips, and still, my cholesterol crept up. Or maybe you feel tired of hearing lectures about what not to eat, what to avoid, how to punish yourself with diets that don't fit your life. That frustration is real, and it's why so many give up. But tonight I want you to hear a different message. This is not about punishment. This is about freedom. Freedom from fear, freedom from the nagging thought that your body is betraying you. Freedom to wake up tomorrow with hope instead of dread. And here's the most important part. The wake-up call doesn't have to end in an emergency room. It can start here now with awareness, with a willingness to listen, and with the decision to believe that change is possible at any age. That's the turning point. That's the new story. As we move forward in this video, I'll show you how to spot the traps in everyday life that silently push cholesterol higher, and then we'll uncover fresh, surprising habits that reverse the damage naturally. Nothing extreme, nothing complicated, just small daily actions that restore energy, protect your mind, and make your heart stronger. But before we dive deeper, I want to invite you to take one small step with me right now. If this story of Robert's collapse struck something inside you, if it reminded you of your own hidden worries, then let's not ignore it. Let's build something together. Subscribe to this channel, Senior Thrive. Every video here is made with one purpose: to help people like you, people who've lived full lives, keep thriving in the years ahead. By subscribing, you're not just supporting me, you're joining a community of seniors who believe that health, joy, and vitality are not behind us, but still ahead. This is your wake-up call, not a call to fear, but a call to possibility. The moment when everything can change. If you choose it, stay with me, because what comes next will show you exactly how. It often begins quietly in the unnoticed details of daily life. You wake up later than planned, skip breakfast, and tell yourself you'll eat something healthy later. Noon arrives, hunger gnaws, and the closest option is a microwaved frozen meal labeled low fat. You sigh in relief, believing you've made a good choice, yet hidden inside that plastic tray is a cocktail of sodium, added sugars, and refined starches that do your heart no favors. The trap isn't obvious. It's disguised as convenience and even health. For many seniors, these traps weave themselves into the rhythm of retirement. Take Eleanor, a 73-year-old former teacher. She believed she was doing the right thing by buying fat-free yogurt every week. She'd spoon it into a bowl with pride, convinced she was nourishing her body. But when her cholesterol numbers climbed, she was puzzled. Only later did she learn that the yogurt was loaded with added sugar, enough to spike her triglycerides and send her energy crashing. By afternoon, her good intentions were hijacked by marketing. Or consider Frank, a 68-year-old veteran who spent decades waking before dawn. In retirement, his schedule loosened. He found himself awake past midnight, glued to late-night television reruns, munching on chips and cookies. He wasn't overeating at dinner. He wasn't even snacking much during the day. But the steady habit of midnight indulgence, combined with disrupted sleep, drove his cholesterol and blood pressure higher than ever. Frank's downfall wasn't laziness or lack of discipline. It was a shift in routine that slipped under his radar until the doctor's warning landed like a hammer. Stress is another hidden trap. Not the kind of stress that shouts, but the quiet kind. Worrying about medical bills, caring for a spouse, or carrying the invisible weight of loneliness. Stress hormones like cortisol don't simply affect mood. They raise blood sugar and worsen cholesterol profiles. Martha, a widow in her 70s, confided that she felt exhausted even on days she barely moved. Her labs confirmed the toll of chronic stress, cholesterol creeping up, triglycerides climbing. She wasn't overeating, she wasn't sedentary, but her body was sounding the alarm of emotional strain. There are also traps of inaction. Retirement can be a blessing of free time, but without structure, the hours drift into long stretches of sitting. Afternoon television becomes evening news, which turns into late-night talk shows. The hours slip by while the body grows stiffer, the arteries less forgiving. Movement fades quietly from daily life, not because of a conscious decision, but because the absence of work routines leaves a vacuum. The trap is the slow erosion of activity disguised as rest. How do we outsmart these traps? Not by shaming ourselves, not by embracing extreme diets or punishing regimens, but by shining a light on the small choices that build up like pebbles in our shoes. Awareness is the first act of freedom. Start with food labels. If a package trumpets low-fat or sugar-free, look closer. Often what is removed is replaced by something worse. Added sugars, artificial fillers, and excess sodium sneak in under the banner of health. Outsmart this trap by leaning on whole foods, apples, carrots, eggs, beans, items your grandmother would recognize instantly. They carry no marketing slogans, yet they do what the body needs with quiet reliability. Address stress not by pretending it doesn't exist, but by giving it a safe outlet. A 10-minute walk outside, a phone call with a trusted friend, or even 5 slow breaths before bed can blunt cortisol's edge. Outsmart this trap by recognizing that emotional weight is as real as physical weight, and both require attention. For late-night habits, establish a gentle evening ritual. Instead of chips and reruns, Try herbal tea and a short book chapter. The goal isn't deprivation, but replacement, something soothing that signals the body it's time to rest. Outsmart the midnight trap by preparing for it ahead of time. Keep healthy options visible, keep temptations out of reach, and remind yourself that tomorrow's energy depends on tonight's discipline. And for the long stretches of sitting, build anchors into your day. Place your phone or favorite book in another room, so you must get up to retrieve it. Commit to standing during commercial breaks. Better yet, connect movement to joy. Gardening, dancing in the living room, or walking with a neighbor. Outsmart the trap of inaction by tying motion to pleasure, not obligation. Each of these shifts is small, almost unremarkable, but together they weave a different fabric of life. They transform the invisible snares of modern living into opportunities for strength. Eleanor learned to swap sugary yogurt for plain Greek yogurt topped with fresh berries. Frank replaced late-night chips with a bowl of popcorn seasoned with herbs, then gradually pushed his bedtime earlier. Martha joined a support group at her church, where laughter and shared stories eased the weight of worry. Their traps became their teachers, guiding them into healthier routines that felt human and sustainable. If you recognize pieces of yourself in these stories, take heart. Hidden traps lose their power once they are named. The next step is choosing how to respond. By seeing clearly, you reclaim the dignity of choice. By making adjustments, you carve a path where health is not a burden, but a gift. And in this clarity, you discover something remarkable. The years ahead can be lived not in fear of decline, but in anticipation of renewal. Sometimes the greatest breakthroughs come not from struggle, but from joy. We are told again and again that lowering cholesterol means deprivation. No flavor, no fun, no freedom. But what if the habits that protect your heart and sharpen your mind were not punishments, but pleasures? What if the very things that bring laughter, music, color, and light into your life also worked like quiet medicine, shifting your cholesterol in ways your doctor might not even expect? This is the secret hiding in plain sight. The body responds not just to food and pills, but to the rhythms of a life fully lived. Think first about laughter. A good laugh with friends doesn't just lighten the spirit, it calms the body's stress response. When cortisol drops, your heart rate steadies, blood vessels relax, and cholesterol metabolism improves. A group of retirees in Arizona discovered this without ever planning it. They met weekly for what they called comedy hour, sharing old jokes, trading stories, sometimes watching a silly sitcom together. Over months, they reported not only brighter moods, but measurable changes in their cholesterol and blood pressure. Laughter became their medicine, cheap, abundant, and delicious. Then there is music. Not the background noise of commercials or waiting rooms, but the music that stirs your memory, makes you tap your foot, or brings tears to your eyes. Pairing music with movement turns a chore into an experience you look forward to. One widower I spoke with, Thomas, had struggled to walk daily. He was bored, lonely, unmotivated. Then his daughter gave him a playlist of his favorite Motown songs from the 1960s. Suddenly, his walks were different. Each step had rhythm. Each block carried him back to youthful dances and first loves. What once felt like a burden became his highlight. And soon after, his cholesterol numbers reflected the consistency of his new habit. The music was not a distraction. It was the spark that kept his feet moving and his arteries clearer. Color is another fighter, though it comes not from laughter or melody, but from the plate. We tend to think of meals in terms of calories, but the heart thrives on pigments. The reds of tomatoes, the yellows of peppers, the deep purples of blueberries. Each hue represents antioxidants that sweep through your blood vessels like small custodians, cleaning, repairing, and preventing cholesterol from sticking where it doesn't belong. A woman named Linda, 71, challenged herself to paint her plate. She filled half with bright vegetables at lunch and dinner. At first, it was an experiment, a little game. Months later, her doctor was astonished at her improved labs. She said simply, "I just tried to make my meals look like art." The colors did the quiet work of healing. Even the morning sun has its role. 10 minutes of early light on your face triggers vitamin D production, and vitamin D plays a role in regulating cholesterol. But beyond biology, the ritual of stepping outside each morning creates a rhythm, a reminder that each day is a gift. John, a retired machinist, made a habit of sipping coffee on his porch with the rising sun. He told me it was the most peaceful part of his day. Over time, his mood lifted, his sleep improved, and his cholesterol followed. The sun was both symbol and science, a daily blessing and a biological reset. And then perhaps the simplest but most powerful fighter, gratitude. Not abstract thankfulness, but a short daily practice. Sitting quietly, breathing slowly, naming 3 things you appreciate before the day ends. Gratitude lowers blood pressure, steadies the nervous system, and reduces the very stress that drives cholesterol upward. A support group in Ohio began each meeting with 5 minutes of gratitude sharing. Members spoke of grandchildren, of old friends, of small pleasures like the smell of coffee or the sound of rain. Over time, this ritual became their anchor, and the numbers on their charts quietly improved. The beauty of these habits is that they are not foreign or impossible. They are already present in your life, waiting to be noticed and cultivated. You already have access to laughter, to music, to color on your plate, to sunlight, to gratitude. The difference is intention. When you treat them as part of your health, they take on new power. They become more than hobbies. They become your allies in the fight against cholesterol. And so the lesson is clear. The path to a stronger heart is not paved only with discipline and denial. It can also be lined with joy. By laughing, by singing, by savoring color, by greeting the sun, by breathing thanks, you are not only living well, you are healing. The fight against cholesterol does not have to feel like war. It can feel like celebration. Every lasting transformation begins not with grand gestures, but with small rhythms repeated faithfully over time. It is tempting to imagine that health is reclaimed through monumental effort, that we need dramatic diets or heroic exercise plans. But in truth, what sustains us is something gentler, steadier, and far more beautiful, a daily rhythm that honors both body and spirit. Think of it as a blueprint for living, not a prescription to follow reluctantly, but a pattern to embrace with joy. A heart-strong routine is not about restrictions. It is about building a day so meaningful, so balanced, that the choices that once seemed difficult begin to feel natural. Imagine waking in the morning with clarity, not fog. You rise with purpose, not dread. This is not the fantasy of youth recaptured. It is the reality of a life designed with intention, a rhythm that carries you into strength and peace. The morning begins not with rushing, but with grounding. A quiet moment of reflection before the day's noise begins. Some may pray, others may sit in silence, others may simply listen to the breath moving in and out. This act sets the tone. It calms the mind, lowers the tension that so often fuels poor health, and opens the day with gratitude. From this stillness, you prepare your body with nourishment, real food, unprocessed, chosen, because it serves you rather than seduces you. Breakfast ceases to be a hurried necessity and becomes a gift to yourself, the first brushstroke on the canvas of the day. As the hours unfold, you insert motion, not as punishment, but as punctuation. The body is designed to move, and movement, in turn, refreshes the mind. A walk mid-morning, a stretch while the phone rings, a stroll to greet a neighbor. These are not exercises in the traditional sense, but rituals of vitality. They remind you that life is not meant to be lived from the confines of a chair. The rhythm of motion restores circulation, lifts mood, and sharpens memory. Over weeks, this becomes the invisible scaffolding of your strength. Connection is the next pillar of the blueprint. Too many believe health is purely physical, when in truth, isolation corrodes the heart as surely as cholesterol. A phone call with a friend, lunch with family, a brief conversation with someone at the market. These exchanges are not trivial. They are nourishment too. Loneliness is poison. Connection is antidote. By weaving relationship into your daily pattern, you reinforce not only your joy, but your very biology. Studies show what common sense already knows. Those who feel loved live longer and better. In the afternoon, the rhythm continues with renewal. It might be reading a chapter of a book that inspires you, tending to plants in the garden, or listening to music that stirs memory. This is not indulgence, it is maintenance of the spirit. The element so often neglected when health advice is reduced to calories and steps. By allowing space for renewal, you quiet the inner storms that otherwise drive unhealthy choices. You remind yourself that life's sweetness is not behind you, but right here, unfolding in small delights. Evening brings closure, and closure matters. How you end the day shapes how you enter the next. A simple dinner, light but satisfying, shared if possible, enjoyed without screens or distractions, is more than a meal. It is a ritual of peace, a way to tell the body you are safe, you are cared for. Afterward, a period of winding down, soft light, perhaps writing a few lines in a journal, naming the things you are grateful for, signals to the mind that rest is coming. Sleep follows more easily, and with it, the restoration that no pill can replace. When lived together, these choices create a circle of strength. Morning calm leads to wise eating. Wise eating gives energy for movement. Movement brings confidence to connect. Connection fuels joy, which encourages renewal. Renewal closes the day with gratitude, which invites deep sleep. And sleep prepares the body for another morning of calm. This is not a checklist, but a loop, a self-sustaining rhythm that carries you forward. What makes this blueprint extraordinary is not its difficulty, but its accessibility. Anyone can embrace it, whether you live alone in a quiet apartment or surrounded by family in a bustling home. You do not need wealth, you do not need perfection, you do not need to be someone else. You need only the willingness to choose differently, one small act at a time, until those acts form a life. This is the invitation before you now, not to chase youth, not to cling desperately to what once was, but to claim the strength and serenity available in this season of life. You can build days that heal rather than harm, days that lift rather than weigh down, days that ripple outward into years of clarity, energy, and purpose. The blueprint is not out there waiting to be found. It is here in your hands, ready to be lived. Begin tonight, begin tomorrow morning. Begin whenever your heart whispers that it is time. And when you do, you will discover the truth too few dare to say. The strongest years of your life can be the ones still to come.